Wake up, everybody, no more sleeping in bed. No more back thinking, time for thinking ahead. The world has changed so very much from what it used to be. There's so much hatred, war and poverty. Peace and love to the family. You know the rest of the song. Wake up, everybody. Wake up, everybody. Peace and love to my beautiful family. I want to welcome you to the Darius Corbin Mystery School, the home of the esoteric and metaphysical knowledge. Wake up, everybody. No more sleeping in bed. And of course, to my family and YouTube out there, I do not own the rights to that wonderful, wonderful song by Teddy Pendergrass. Wake up, everybody. You know, I love a presentation that presents itself. My beautiful family out there, I love a presentation that can present itself. Tonight will be that presentation. And the title, of course, Racism Decoded, the Galactic Truth. What? Racism Decoded, the Galactic Truth. I want to dedicate this to Sandra Bland, George Floyd, Emmett Till, Dr. Martin Luther King, Sean Bell. I want to dedicate this to anybody who has dealt with racism, but most definitely the black and brown family, my melanated family, because throughout this presentation, the word melanin will be often used. Also with this presentation, we have never left the Bible. But what do you mean? It's called Racism Decoded, the Galactic Truth. We're going to the stars and then some, yes, to answer your question. Once again, this presentation will be called Racism Decoded, the Galactic Truth. Now, I just want to go over some notes before we get started. And I thank you for your time. I thank you for your patience. This will be epic. You're going to want to share this. You're going to want to post this. Make it go viral. We're going to break down in real time the origins of racism. And I promise you, it does not start with planet Earth. It doesn't start with America. Let's get time. Class is in session, my beautiful people. Some notes before I go in. Some notes. Tonight I will be reading from a wonderful book that Nigel, let me make sure I get Nigel's name right, Nigel Kerner. You already know about the pen and the pad when you watch this show, so Nigel, Nigel, Kerner, Kerner. That's Nigel Kerner. His book, Great Aliens and the Harvesting of the Soul. We'll be reading from his pages. Great Aliens and the Harvesting of the Soul. I know. Here he go with these aliens. I know. But no, here you go. We're so in this mundane world, stuck on planet Earth, focusing on wars that have nothing to do with us. We're allowing certain energies to take control over our mind, body, and soul without questioning, without fighting. And why? Because of love of a God that we don't even understand? For this fake love that we have for our fellow human beings? Or is it just fear of being dominated? Is it fear of having to face death? We have dealt with racism all our lives, but we haven't faced it. Let me say that again. We have dealt with racism all of our lives, but as a humankind, we have not faced it. As sure you hear my voice and you're watching this face, I'm calling upon world leaders. I'm calling upon the Joe Bidens, the UN, to watch this video. I'm only 5 minutes in. To my melanated people, my black and brown melanated people. I love doing those, Jesus is this and the demiurge and, the love of Sophia. The love of Sophia is what got me into this gnosis. But we are so far behind in where we should be at in our history because we have indoctrinated and adopted his story. Do you expect somebody to give you your story where they're dominating you and have been dominating you with their story for eons? Let me ask you again before I go in tonight. Do you expect the ones who give you the laws, indoctrinate with their beliefs, create this Bible for you and tell you to praise and worship your God in the same manner that you would praise and give respect to the slave master? People look down on people who read. But what if we all just had an understanding of who we truly are? Well, tonight, we're going to do just that. And to my melanated people who are still fighting over tribes, still fighting whose tribe is the best, my tribe is better than your tribe, how far we have come. My father used to warn me when I was a kid. He said, Dad, I just got this feeling that my voice is going to be used here. Like, my voice is going to be a force to be reckoned with in the future when it comes to awakening our people. And he used to look at me, and he knew I was serious. But he would always say, son, you seen what happened to Malcolm and Martin, didn't you? See, my beautiful people, listen. As you transform into the spirit, the flesh has to go. We're in the age of Aquarius right now. You cannot keep on relying to them church people to give you everything and keep pampering you up with these beautiful poetries written by European men who did nothing but destroy your history. Let's get ready to go. Once again, Nigel Kerner. His work is what I'm going to be reading from. He did this book in 2007, I believe. You about to hear racism like you have never heard it before. Share this, go viral, leave comments, hit the like button. Because starting now, shit is about to get real. Are you ready? Are your ears tuned in to my melanated people and to my Caucasian people and to my Asian people? This shit is about to hit the fan. I hope you are ready. All of you. Let's go. Thousands of reliable witnesses, including doctors, teachers, policemen, pilots, and high-ranking military officials, have described encounters with alien craft and alien abduction. In fact, sightings of mysterious craft in the skies and encounters with strange, non-human extraterrestrial entities have been described for millennia. Cave paintings dated from 40,000 years ago show non-human beings that are often depicted with strange craft that are quite clearly not from this planet. After 20 years of research into the phenomenon, I have found the evidence for its veracity to be both overwhelming and frightening. Nigel says. Now, in case you want to leave now, go ahead and leave now, because it's about to get real. I'm going to read some more, and once again, I'm going to check on you. If you want to leave, leave. But for the ones who want to really break down racism and understand why the melanated people be getting so hard on this planet, You about to realize. You about to get the 411. Feathers of the abduction experience, such as removal of sperm and ovia, and experiments with hybridization, characterize an apparent fascination with all that pertains to human reproduction. Accompanied by a complete disregard for any pain these procedures cause. We seem to be lab rats in a controlled experiment. My research has led me to a remarkable conclusion that I am sure many will find highly controversial. It is based on the fact that abductees have witnessed white Caucasian hybrids within the perimeters of the alien craft and are shown scenes of the future by the grays which only fear white people. Y'all all right? I'm only 11 minutes in. I just want to check on y'all because we haven't even scratched the surface. I just want to check to see if my family is all right. Because you will not be the same once you leave this presentation, like I'm going to let you know now. Divine Christ is here. You think this is a game when I say I'm the Divine Christ, the Son of the Mother God. It is time. I am here to wake the people up. Humankind, I am here to wake you up. So I'm going to read that again. We're not here for games. No more. To the Vatican, the UN, everybody. I know there's high power people watching this. Let them know that we are here now. The divine. Feathers of the abduction experience, such as removal of sperm and ovia and experiments with hybridization, characterize an apparent fascination with all that pertains to human reproduction, accompanied by a complete disregard for any pain these procedures cause. We seem to be lab rats in a controlled experiment, he says. My research has led me to a remarkable conclusion that I am sure many will find highly controversial. It is based on the fact that abductees have witnessed white Caucasian hybrids within the perimeters of the alien craft and are shown scenes of the future by the grays which only feather white people. Abductees have also witnessed white Caucasian bodies wrapped in some sort of bagging for transport. All this has led me to believe that there may well be a racial demarcation to these alien intentions, and one that might have chilling implications for a certain genotype of human beings. Are we ready to have this talk? I told you I am here. I told you the Christ is here. The Christ is within you all. In order for us to get to the levels of fifth dimension and to start to be with our divine being family out there in the cosmos, it's time for certain races to admit the truth and how they've been suppressing the other races. Many abductees report that the great aliens who abduct them and conduct unspeakable experiments on them refer to a horde, and that's Horde, who are their human target on the earth for their machinations. And that's Machiнаtions. Their human target on the earth for their machinations here. These human targets resemble a certain type of alien being often seen with the gray aliens that feature in almost all abduction accounts. They have been called the Nordics and are apparently humanoid and have blonde hair and blue eyes. I'm going to read that again. Many abductees report that the gray aliens who abduct them and conduct unspeakable experiments on them refer to a horde, and that's Horde, who are their human target on the earth for their machinations here. These human targets resemble a certain type of alien being often seen with the gray aliens that feature in almost all abductions accounts. They have been called the Nordics, Nodics, and are apparently humanoid and have blonde hair and blue eyes. Now, I'm going to stop right there because I know some of y'all are probably at the edge of your seat. You guys watch YouTube like I watch YouTube, right? Y'all watch YouTube like I watch YouTube, right? And you know how they have those ads and 30-second commercials? You guys know about Gaia, right? Gaia, that is really reporting all this disclosure they're about to disclose. What do they always feed us? the Greys, and these blonde, blue-eyed motherfucking hybrid aliens. The Nordics and the Pleiadians. Now, the Gaia, which is a true name for Mother Earth, an ancient name, Gaia, G-A-I-A, they know our fucking shit. But once again, once you beat the people to the race, you can put whatever you want in the history books. And that's what they're doing. They give you every color, every aspect of goddamn extraterrestrial on Gaia except a black one. And you may say, here he going, he throwing racism. Did you not hear what I said my title was today? Racism, Decoded, the Galactic Truth. You're gonna learn today how old school racism is and how far it goes back. Let's continue reading. Many abductees report that the great aliens who abduct them and conduct unspeakable experiments on them refer to a horde who are their human target on the earth for their machinations here. These human targets resemble a certain type of alien being often seen with the great aliens that feature in almost all abduction accounts. They have been called the Nordics and are apparently humanoid and have blonde hair and blue eyes. Professor David Jacobs, and make sure you're writing these names down too. These people have been studying this shit while we were sitting back watching TV and playing video games and really going to church and praising somebody else's energy. It's not ours. Now you about to get the truth. Professor David Jacobs writes, and I quote, "The evidence clearly suggests that the Nordics are most probably adult hybrids of human-alien mating. If the product of great alien hybridization with humanity is Nordic, it raises questions as to why they are promoting a blonde, blue-eyed, low melanin genotype." Oh, we about to get scientific in this bitch too. Don't even worry. Let me roll some window down on this bitch so we get some air. I want to see how smart my watchers are, my elite and light ones are. I want to see how smart y'all are. So I'm going to read that again. Since everybody's talking about their melanin popping, you know, my melanated magic people. Well, there are some people out here that don't have that much melanin popping like you do. These are the ones that took over your life when they came down here. Because their melanin wasn't as popping as yours. But you're going to read more about that as we go. Professor David Jacobs writes, and I quote, family, "The evidence clearly suggests that the Nordics are most probably adult hybrids of human-alien mating. If the product of great alien hybridization with humanity is Nordic, it raises question as to why they are promoting a blonde, blue-eyed, low melanin genotype. It is my thesis," Nigel says, "it is my thesis based on evidence that I will quote in this article that the great aliens have cultured this genotype of humanity as part of their experiment. Further, it is my proposition that racism and other forms of divisive sectorism are promoted by the experimenters as a mean of keeping the control group separate from other populations. I am not suggesting that this is their only experimental group or experimental group. The evidence suggests that the alien phenomenon has cropped up in many diverse groups worldwide and throughout history. Rather, I am proposing that Euro-Caucasians may well be the pinnacle of their attempts to hybridize humanity with themselves, as evidenced by the Nordic hybrids. Thus, the white urge for racial purity could be intrinsic to the hybridization process. Indeed, racism amongst other human populations may have the same origins in alien experimentations, albeit on a smaller scale." I know I'm mind fucking you people right now, and when I know I'm mind fucking the audience with the truth, I'd like to make sure I read slowly as possible. Because you are now, as you read, like, yeah, this is really happening. We are understanding racism a little bit different. Nigel says, "It is my thesis based on evidence that I will quote in this article that the great aliens have cultured this genotype, the Caucasian genotype of humanity, as part of their experiment. Further, it is my proposition that racism and other forms of divisive sectarianism are promoted by the experimenters as a means of keeping the control group separate from other populations. I am not suggesting that this is their only experimental group. The evidence suggests that the alien phenomenon has cropped up in many diverse groups worldwide and throughout history. Rather, Nigel says, I am proposing that Euro-Caucasians may well be the pinnacle of their attempts to hybridize humanity with themselves, as evidenced by the Nordic hybrids. Thus, the white urge for racial purity could be intrinsic to the hybridization process. Indeed, racism amongst other human populations may have the same origins in alien experimentation, albeit on a smaller scale. I envision a knee-jerk reaction from many. He said, I envision a knee-jerk reaction from many who might read this. Racism is an evil born out of our own nature as human beings. It is ludicrous to find exotic excuses for this inadequacy, some may say, in an alien source beyond our control. And this is what he envisions somebody says. He says, I envision a knee-jerk reaction from many who might read this and probably think, racism is an evil born out of our own nature as human beings. It is ludicrous to find exotic excuses for this inadequacy in an alien source beyond our control. Well, Nigel says, well, for those who have this instant reaction, I have some interesting information to put before you. Please have your pen and pad ready, my beautiful people. Recent research has affirmed a spectacular fact that the best, most genetically fit human beings are produced by mixed-race partnerships. In other words, the more genetically different the parents are from each other, the better the genetic prospects of the offspring. The biological term for this is hybrid vigor, and that's V-I-G-O-U-R, quote, end quote. And it is something that farmers, horticulturalists, and scientists have known about for years and used to their advantage. An individual who has two identical copies of a gene is described as homozygotic, and that's Homozygotic. An individual who has two identical copies of a gene is described as homozygotic for that gene, while some who has two copies that differ is described as heterozygotic, and that's Heterozygotic for that gene. Basically, if you have two identical copies of the same gene, then it is more likely that if that gene is broken, both copies will be broken. This can result in serious health problems. However, with less related partners, the number of genes that are identical by descent is reduced, and with the chance that a gene has two broken copies. In other words, every broken copy has a much better chance of finding itself partnered with a good copy. Heterozygosity also gives a greater scope of genes to adapt to the demand of any particular environment. So in classic evolutionary terms, one would expect human beings to have a biologically generated urge to mix races in order to increase the fitness of the species for survival. Yet among so many, the opposite is true, especially among the white Euro-Caucasians. I thank y'all for rocking with me tonight too, because we're only 23 minutes in, and this shit is real. I got some apple juice in here. Good ass apple juice too. So if the primary biological drive should be to mix races for the sake of the best survival of the species, where could this urge? Let me read that again. So if the primary biological drive should be to mix races for the sake of the best survival of the species, where could this urge for racial or sectarian purity promoting and inbred homozygotic population come from? Could it be that some of us have been programmed by alien experimenters to keep this experimental group separate in order to preserve the integrity of the experiment? Could racism be a sure sign of alien genetic interception, an interception for their purpose and in their interest and not ours? According to population geneticist Dr. James Wilson, Royal Society University Research Fellow at Edinburgh University, the European population tracing its origins to Cro-Magnon man and Cro-Magnon, and that's spelled Cro-Magnon. Let's read that again. According to population geneticist Dr. James Wilson, Royal Security University research fellow at Edinburgh University, the European population tracing its origins to Cro-Magnon man, and that's Cro-Magnon man, is intrinsically one of the most homozygotic in the world. This is because it stems from the most recent population to leave and therefore has less time to establish a diverse genetic base from its original 100 or so descendants. Are you now understanding why white people and Caucasians are so different? They left Africa too early to get that motherfucking melanin benefit. Don't take my word from it. I'm just paraphrasing. Let's read that again. According to population geneticist Dr. James Wilson, Royal Society University research fellow at Edinburgh University, he says the European population tracing its origins to Cro-Magnon man is intrinsically one of the most homozygotic in the world. This is because it stems from the most recent population to leave Africa and therefore has less time to establish a diverse genetic base from its original 100 or so descendants. The Caucasian left Africa too early to get that melanin benefit. It goes without saying that the most heinous, and that's Heinous, or heinous, the most heinous forms of racism originate from this group. Can I read that again? This is because it stems from the most recent population to leave Africa and therefore has less time to establish a diverse genetic base from its original 100 or so descendants. It goes without saying that the most heinous forms of racism originated from this group. The colonial legacy of the white man throughout the world speaks for itself. And this is not a black man writing this, just in case you're wondering. Let's now take a look at the overwhelming evidence to suggest alien preoccupation with the Euro-Caucasian genotype. In David Jacobs' book, Threat, quote unquote, in David Jacobs' book, Threat, abductee Allison Reed was shown the alien plans for a perfect future. You can see, we always hear about these alien abductions, and we even joke. I think Eddie Griffin had on one of his movies was talking about how aliens never come to the hood. But this is real shit, and there's a reason why you don't hear about black abductees. There's a reason why you don't hear about black people being abducted, and we're going to break this down. In David Jacobs' book, Threat, abductee Allison Reed was shown the alien plans for a perfect future. And I'm going to need y'all to listen up. Black, brown, white, Asian, I need y'all to listen up. Listen. Abductee Allison Reed was shown the aliens' plans for a perfect future. A perfect future. Excuse me. Now, let's visualize this. Let me slow it down a little bit. I do get hyped sometimes, and I thank y'all for bearing with me. As I'm reading this, the energy is with me, so I do get hyped, but I'm going to calm it down so we can understand this together. So thank you for bearing with me. In David Jacobs' book, Threat, abductee Allison Reed was shown the alien plans for a perfect future, quote, unquote. And this was the plan she was shown. And I quote, she was brought into a room with other abductees and shown on a large screen-like device a beautiful park scene with people having picnics and playing ball. Her extraordinary recollection is profoundly detailed description of the aliens' plans for a perfect future. She is asked to distinguish hybrids from normal human beings amongst families in a park. She notes that in the park they are all white. Everybody's Caucasian. There's no Spanish, Black, Oriental. She was taken by an alien escort to a museum room. There she saw artifacts, and artifacts here is spelled Artefacts. She was taken by an alien escort to a museum room. There she saw artifacts on shelves along with strange life-size holograms of several beings. Her alien escort explained what these figures represented and why the hybridization was undertaken. Now we're about to hear from an alien telling Allison what Allison is now witnessing. And I quote, "Each of the hologram figures had a flaw of some sort. The first had alien features with distinctive black eyes and a thin body. It also had a distended stomach with boil-like protuberances on it. The next hologram looked more human. He had blonde hair and human-like eyes, but had no genitals, and his skin was extremely pale, like that of a borderline albino. The final hologram was a grouping of smaller beings, about 5 feet tall. They were very white, and Allison received the impression that they were mentally weak or something." End quote. Another female abductee describes how she was shown a hybrid baby and asked to hold it and hug it. Jacob asked her about the skin color of the baby, and I quote, "Does it have light skin or dark skin?" he asked, "within the Caucasian range." Her answer is, and I quote, "fair, quite fair. I think it is very fair. As a matter of fact, almost like no ultraviolet for this guy." And I quote, hold on. Let's go. There are historical accounts to suggest that Hitler, we know Hitler, Adolf Hitler. Let's keep on reading. There are historical accounts to suggest that Hitler may have met one of these hybrids. The following are his words to Hermann Rauschning, and that's HERMANN You need to be writing these shit down because they haven't been telling us this shit. Let's read again. There are historical accounts, family, to suggest that Hitler may have met one of these hybrids. The following are his words to Hermann Rauschning, the Nazi governor of Danzig. This is what Hitler says, and I quote, "The new man is living amongst us now. He is here. I will tell you a secret. I have seen the new man. He is intrepid," and that's INTREPID. "He is intrepid and cruel. I was afraid of him." Now, we know the work that Hitler put in. So for Hitler to say he was afraid of anything, let you know how real this shit was. Let's continue. It seems that Hitler believed that he had seen a member of an Aryan super race. Now, I want to stop there right quick because we still got time. It seems that Hitler believed that he had seen a member of an Aryan race. Some may know, some may not know, that you know the story of Hitler that they told you, the mainstream told you. But based on the teachings that Hitler was getting from Egypt and over there into places like India and Tibet, he was going off of the Indian philosophy of the Aryan race, the superman, super ability race that was known in the past. Hitler equated that with the Superman, the great white hope, pretty much. He felt that the new superhuman was the great white race, based on everything he learned from the Indian philosophy. Look it up. Hitler and the Aryan race. So the destruction of the Jews, in Hitler's eyes, was based on him destroying this race of people and building a superhuman race. That's why the story of Superman, the DC Comics, is really based on that as well. If you look at Lex Luthor, the villain for Superman, all he was about was eugenics and really building the Superman, the next superior human being. So let's continue going on. It seems that Hitler believed that he had seen a member of an Aryan super race, which he believed to originate from the inner Earth. And I quote, "a Nordic alien inspiring his blonde blue eye idea in referring to the inner Earth. Could he have been describing the underground and underwater location where UFO sightings have indicated the possibility that alien craft are laying in wait, ready perhaps to emerge when the time is right?" Hitler had intimate links with the Thor Society, and that's Thule. You need to be writing this down. Hitler had intimate links with the Thor Society. Thor Society members were allegedly the first group to attempt the back engineering of an extraterrestrial spaceship. In his biography of one of the Thor Society's founding members, Dr. Wilhelm Dahm, and that's Wilhelm wrote, the Thor Gesellschaft, and that's Gessellschaft, the Thor Gesellschaft name originated from the mythical Thor, Thul, a Nordic equivalent of the vanished culture of Atlantis. A race of giant supermen lived in Thor, linked into the cosmos through magical powers. They had psychic and technological energies, far exceeding the technical achievements of the 20th century. This knowledge was to be put to use, save the fatherland, and create a new race of Nordic Aryan Atlanteans. A new Messiah will come forward to lead the people to the goal. And mind you, this is still Racism Decoded, the Galactic Truth. I know this is different. It's a lot to take in. But we have seen melanated black person after black person, brown person slaughtered. What did they say? We are what, 3/4 of a human being? This world is not for us. It was not planned for us. And as when I continue to read, you're really going to understand this world is not planned for us. It's not designed for us. You shouldn't be scratching your head like, why they keep killing black people? Keep on reading. Keep on listening. The Cro-Magnon group, that's the Caucasian group, the Cro-Magnon group that led to modern Europeans seem to have manifested a sudden spurt of technological growth unlike any that took place prior to the arrival on the scene. It is now believed that the Neanderthal and early modern human groups lived side by side with each other for tens of thousands of years. During that time, the modern humans showed no sign that they had superior technology. Both people were living in the same way, Caucasians and Africans, and other races, is what they're saying. Both people were living in the same way, hunting the same prey, burying their dead in the same manner, says Baruch Arnsberg, a paleoanthropologist at Tel Aviv University. He says, then it seems that around 40,000 to 50,000 years ago, something profound happened. New technologies associated with modern human finer blades and projectile weapons began to appear. Scientists can only speculate on what triggered this technological spurt. And I quote, I think there was a mutation in the brains of a group of anatomically modern humans living either in Africa or the Middle East, says Richard Klein, an anthropologist at Stanford University. And I quote, some new neurological connection let them behave in a modern way. Maybe it permitted fully articulated speech so that they could pass on information more efficiently. Are you hearing what I'm saying? They're saying about 40,000 to 50,000 years ago, something happened that separated the Caucasian, the white race, from all the rest of us, gave them this technological spurt of information and technology for them to control the rest of the world with it. We got to go back to the Bible. Think of the Tower of Babel, and how they said that people were getting closer to God, and then they what? Change the language up. Start separating everybody up. Oh, we never left the Bible. I'm not done. We only 30 minutes in, family. Could this mutation in the brains of a group of anatomically modern humans to which Klein refers to be the result of alien interception at this very point? Alien interception producing the Cro-Magnon form of hominoid. Such a sudden burst of technological development at this point certainly suggests the possible involvement of the ultimate masters of technology, the gray roboids. Now I'm gonna keep on stopping because a lot of y'all watch your YouTube like I do. And you watch those like TikTok clips and certain YouTube clips to have like these aliens being interrogated. You have these frail-looking aliens with black eyes being interrogated. Some people think that shit's a joke and think it's not real, but listen to what they're saying. Listen to what they're saying. Listen to this and listen to what they're saying. There's a video out where this guy is in the background interrogating this alien, as you see. I know it's a lot of shit you got to decipher with YouTube, but listen to what that alien is saying. Once again, could this mutation in the brains of a group of anatomically modern humans, quote unquote, to which Klein refers be the result of alien interception at this very point? Alien interception producing the Cro-Magnon form of hominoid. Such a sudden burst of technological development at this point certainly suggests the possible involvement of the ultimate masters of technology, the Grey Roboids, or robots, whatever you want to call them. Thus, it is my contention that the Cro-Magnons are the result of direct crossbreeding with the aliens' own genetic blueprint. Accomplished 100,000 years ago, it prompted, I believe, the huge exodus of humanity out of Africa. Let's read that again. Thus, it is my contention, Nigel says, that the Cro-Magnon, the Caucasian, the Europeans, are the result of direct crossbreeding with the aliens' own genetic blueprint. Accomplished 100,000 years ago, it prompted, I believe, the huge exodus of humanity out of Africa. Now, for some of y'all who watch my older work on the Darius Corbin channel and other people's work who talk about the Exodus and Moses, then you know that those people that he was leading out of Africa was the Caucasians. It is said that they were so barbaric that Moses even blew some of them up, a lot of them up in the cave. This is true. Once again, thus it is my contention that the Cro-Magnons are the result of direct crossbreeding with the aliens' own genetic blueprint. Accomplished 100,000 years ago, it prompted, I believe, the huge exodus of humanity out of Africa. The northern hemisphere, which was largely covered in ice, provided the central stage on which these, the most complete interceptions of all, were carried out. Perhaps the Inuit legend, which says that the first tribes were brought to the north by gods with brass wings, is based on actual truth. Maybe the super race of the far north spoken of by the Thor Society had the same origins. As part of an extensive gene mapping program, researchers at Decoded Genetics in Reykjavik, Iceland, have been researching for places in genome where chunks of DNA containing many genes get turned back to front. Strangely enough, one of those inversions on chromosomes was particularly interesting to them, as it turned up in about 20% of Europeans, yet was rare in Africans and almost absent in Asians. They dated the origins of the inversions to about 3 million years ago, well before modern humans evolved. The researchers were baffled by the fact that the inversion, almost 1 million DNA letters long, did not spread to the entire human population. The researchers also found, when looking at the families of nearly 30,000 Icelanders, that women with the inversion had on average 3.5% more children than women who did not. David Retch, a geneticist at Harvard University, says, and I quote, "Finding any genetic variant that affects fertility is really startling and raises lots of questions, like, why doesn't everybody have this? If there has been 3 million years for such an advantaged trait to spread, it is even more astonishing that it has not done so." Carl Stephenson, Decode's chief executive, offers a remarkable possibility. He suggests that it was introduced by, and I quote, crossbreeding with earlier species, so the inversion was native to some other species of early humans, but came to our species only about 50,000 years ago. Stephenson says that, and I quote, "There aren't all that many ways you can explain it except by reintroduction into the modern human population. This recent arrival of the inversion would explain why it has not spread to everyone. It would also explain why copies of the inversion in different individuals are remarkably similar. the interbreeding events would have been rare and would have brought only one or two variants into the population. Has this research team unwittingly discovered the genetic strain that was carefully cultured about 50,000 years ago by alien genetic interception of our species? Could 1 in 5 Europeans carry that strain today? There is an account in the pseudegraphical book of Enoch. We never left the Bible. We 45 minutes in and we never left the Bible. Y'all still with me? There is an account in the pseudegraphical book of the Enoch, and to my church people, to my Christians, y'all may not agree with everything I say, but you know about Enoch. You know about Enoch, so let's read that again in slow motion. There is an account in the pseudegraphical book of Enoch indicating that the biblical figure Noah may have been albino. What? Breaking news from the Darius Coleman Mystery School. There is an account in the pseudegraphical book of Enoch indicating that the biblical figure Noah may have been albino. Listen up. After, and this is in the book of Enoch, after a time, my son Methuselah, Mathusala, took a wife for his son Lamech, and you know Lamech is in the Bible. She became pregnant by him and brought forth a child, the flesh of which as white as snow and red as a rose, the hair of whose head was white like wool and long, and whose eyes were beautiful. When he opened them, he illuminated all the house like the sun, the whole house abandoned with light. And when he was taken from the hand of the midwife, Lamech, his father, became afraid of him, and flying away came to his own father, Methuselah, and said, I have begotten a son unlike to other children. He is not human, but resembling the offspring of the angels of heaven, is of a different nature from ours, being altogether unlike to us. His eyes are bright as the rays of the sun. His countenance glorious, and he looks not as if he belonged to me, but to the angels. I am afraid lest something miraculous should take place on earth in his days. And Nigel says, it seems that Noah not only lacked in melanin. Let me read that again. It seems that Noah not only lacked in melanin, but also not to be human, resembling offspring of the angels of heaven, and of a different nature to ours. It appears that he was some form of hybrid. The unusual nature of this child was so marked that his father Lamech, Lamech, was, and I quote, afraid of him. This will lend a whole new meaning to the story of Noah and his ark. Could the ark, with its animals representing all the species on the planet, describe an alien-sponsored genetic experiment? Did they wish to clear the earth of all previous experiments and preserve this one to work in isolation? If so, did they cause the deluge that led to the great flood? Or if the deluge was a natural phenomenon, perhaps caused by a comet or meteorite hitting the planet, did they choose to protect their ongoing project with the Earth species? The second law of thermodynamics of entropy within any universe continually breaks all things into parts through a gathering momentum of randomism, chaotic amelioration. It breaks down everything in time universe wide, including DNA. I believe that the great alien's own species has perished through lack of fresh DNA sources. It happens to all civilizations if they are old enough. Their ancient civilization has now decayed into a state of DNA destitution, and they have made biologically contrived material program robotic mechanisms with artificial intelligence to search the universe for suitable new sources of fresh DNA. The Greys, the final harvesting of a sophisticated form of DNA is what they are now here for. There is something else they are here for too. I suspect something else that they regard as more precious than anything else in the universe. Listen to this. That something is what we call a soul. I believe that a soul is simply a connection to an internal prospectus of existence held by those living species that come with a continuous contingent contingent connection to the very beginning of the universe and to what existed before the universe came into physical being. I thank y'all for rocking with me, but I'm going to read that again. I'm a soul man. What race do they always equate with soul? What race do they always equate with soul? They are telling you that these great aliens who created and crossbred the Caucasians, the Europeans, that lack melanin, it's something else they're after as well. Let's read that again. The final harvesting of a sophisticated form of DNA is what they are now here for. There is something else they are here for too. I suspect something else that they regard as more precious than anything else in the universe. That something is what we call a soul. I believe that a soul is simply a connection to an internal prospectus of existence held by those living species that come within a contingent connection to the very beginning of the universe and to what existed before the universe came into physical being. My God, shout out to the brother Bobby Hemmett. You remember he used to call us advanced chaos beings? I believe our universe comes out of a connection to another universe. Sirius A, Sirius B. That's me talking now. But Nigel said, I believe our universe comes out of a connection to another universe. Its opposite I call the Godverse. The opposite of this universe, he says, is the Godverse. Let's read that again. I believe our universe comes out of a connection to another universe. Its opposite I call the Godverse. Our universe breaks things up in a one-way momentum. Its opposite puts things back together again in a quantum single harmonious continuum. This is a natural logical principle that is internal and allows the entire essential summary of perfection. From it comes the power to hold all forms endlessly through a mechanism called life and an independent existence in individuality. If for any reason its nature is trapped and sublimated in its opposite. If for any reason its nature is trapped and submitted in its opposite. The gray roboid machines have come to realize that if they can fuse their AI intelligent programs with our natural mind forms and living property, they might be able to animate themselves as natural living beings, something they could never do on their own planet. In other words, convert a machine into a living form that is capable of natural reproduction and thus the production of a natural DNA-bearing living state through birth. To this end, they are seeking to hybridize themselves with us. They are manufactured organobiological robots with quantum computers for minds. Through their hybridization process with humanity, they are searching for a living capacity that will allow them to be born as a distinct living species like the natural ones that evolve with the establishment of the universe. I want to stop there right quick. How many of y'all have heard of the late great brother from the doggone tribe? Excuse me, the late brother from the Zulu tribe, Credo Mutwa, Baba Credo Mutwa. Have you watched his work? Have you listened to what Baba Credo Mutwa talked about and how he gave us the truth? And they damn near trying to kill that man. Take his ancient artifacts because he was telling you the truth. If you never watched Credo Mutwa, Credo, I believe it was Mutuwa, but he talks about stuff like this. A melanated man. The whole UFO mystery centers, I believe, Nigel says, the whole UFO mystery centers, I believe, on the covert intentions of these robotal machines the whole UFO mystery centers, I believe, on the covert intentions of these robotal machines to harvest the most highly developed form of humanity on our planet and use them as mechanism for hybridization. This form was chosen from a selection of genotypes they made at the beginning of their experiments over 200,000 years ago. Their biggest obstacle was the pigment melanin. Their biggest obstacle was the pigment melanin. And I'm going to do a video, especially, y'all hit the like button, y'all hit the comment button. I'm going to do a whole presentation on melanin. Their biggest obstacles, the Greys' biggest obstacles, was the pigment melanin. Listen up. The original hominoids had in plenty to protect them from the high sunlight radiation in Africa. Black people, melanated people, people all around. Your melanin makes you superheroes in this universe. You cannot expect people who know they have low melanin to treat you with love and respect, to treat you equal. They have help from extraterrestrial beings. They are family with extraterrestrial beings. People in our government officials, people in the Vatican are in cahoots with extraterrestrial beings to make sure that the melanated black and brown people on this planet do not get their true melanin benefits. Because if you do, you can shape shift this world into powerful and back to the origins where we left it from when we were ruling Atlantis and Lemuria. And you worry about a goddamn war and them keep shooting us down the streets and they keep putting fear in our goddamn mind. I'm telling you this shit right here. And some of y'all gonna watch this shit and go sleep comfortably and shit. Fuck wrong with man. What the fuck? Come on, man. Their biggest obstacles was the pigment melanin. The original hominoids. You know that they traced the first person back to where? Africa. This is why we have so many problems. How many of y'all remember that Saturday Night Live skit? I think it was Saturday Night Live. How many of y'all remember that Richard Pryor skit? And if you don't, listen. Go to YouTube and type in, I don't know what you would type, Richard Pryor in Africa or Richard Pryor in Egypt, or it's a skit that SNL did with Richard Pryor where he's in a cave and he finds a book, and that book pretty much exposes the fact that black people, melanated people started all this. The two white Caucasians that's company behind him were like, oh shit, he knows, and they closed him in the pyramid. This is an SNL skit you can find on YouTube. Just type in Richard Pryor, SNL, pyramid skit. I don't know. You'll find it though. The Greys, their biggest obstacle was the pigment melanin. The original hominoids had in plenty to protect them from high sunlight radiation in Africa. The Greys found that the nuclear membrane protecting access to the chromosomes was lined with melanin granulines in dark-skinned people, which stopped their ultraviolet light pins from cutting the base sequence for suitable gene alterations. Let me read that again. Man, why is it, you may ask, and we have been asking, why have black people been going through it so much? Why have the Native Americans have been robbed of their lands? Why have the black and brown people been treated, shot down, been slaves or whatnot? I need you to use your educated common sense mind, people, not just black people, because humankind whites, we are in this together. Because I know some white people that ride for us as hard as some blacks do. So I know there's some white people right now watching this getting boiled upset. Because they didn't know this was the truth. They didn't know what it says. They know now. So to my African Americans, to my Africans, to my Native Americans, to my black and brown people, this title was called Racism Decoded, the Galactic Truth. When our parents were slaves and our great-grandparents and people were slaves and whatnot in these fields, by the time that they had left Africa and left all these native places, indigenous places and whatnot, and these people are now, as we were taught in school, people like Columbus and what's the other homie name? Vasco da Gama and shit. When they coming over there and conquering lands and shit, they conquer that shit. And then they found, discovered shit. Then after they found and discovered shit, they destroyed a lot of shit that wasn't beneficial for them. They had technology that they were getting from the Greys and extraterrestrials to put us in this prison. Your scientists have told you this is a holographic universe. How do you feel, black people? Knowing that you've been spiritually suppressed because you are the originators of this shit. To my white family, how do you feel? Because, you're going to read. You are still a part of this black shit. You are still a part of us. Hmm. Their biggest obstacle was the pigment melanin. This the original hominoids had in plenty to protect them from high sunlight radiation in Africa. The Greys found that the nuclear membrane protecting access to the chromosomes was lined with melanin grand lines in dark-skinned people, which stopped their ultraviolet light pins from cutting the base sequences for suitable gene alterations. In his fascinating book, In the Blood God Genes, In his fascinating book, In the Blood, God, Genes, and Destiny, distinguished biologist and geneticist, Professor Steve Jones of the Galactic Laboratory of University College in London outlines a biological fact that, in my opinion, may be very plausible reason why the vast majority of abductees are white. Jones points out that although the number of melanocytes, and that's MEANOCYTES, Jones points out that although the number of melanocytes is the same in blacks and whites, and I quote, in black skin, they are far more active and the melanin granulines cluster around the nuclei of the cells in which they are found, suggesting that they play a vital part in protecting DNA from damage by ultraviolet light. In an article in the Journal of Investigative Dermatology, Glennis Scott, medical doctor, writes, this positioning of melosomes above the nucleus serves as an exquisite protective mechanism, shielding the keratinocyte, and that's KERATINOCYTE nucleus, from harmful ultraviolet irradiation. These are known as supranuclear caps or micro parasols. This inbuilt protective mechanism absorbs light, which prevents the use of ultraviolet light, a standard method to alter gene orientation with the nuclear membrane. And family, I know that was a lot going into an hour. What they are saying is dark-skinned people have higher melanin that protects them for anything altering their DNA, which, since the Caucasian has a low melanin and it doesn't absorb that much as high melanin dark skinned people do, it makes it easier for these entities to alter them and make them a part of their puppet show. My God. My God. Thus, a possible fortuitous and accidental genetic mutation giving rise to albinoism, made for the easier genetic engineering of this type. Hence the story of the albino Noah. There are no melanin granulines in the nuclear membrane of fair-skinned humans. This lack of melanin allowed their ultraviolet light cutting engineering techniques to gain access to the chromosome in the nucleus of the cell and alter them more easily than highly melanized humans. The fair-skinned human with little melanin protection from sunlight became their ideal human form for their predatory work. Let me read that again. The fair-skinned human with little melanin protection from sunlight became their ideal human form for their predatory work. They left the other experimental human forms with higher melanin substantially alone and instituted their main work on what we now call Euro-Caucasians and far more recently fair-skinned Northern Mongolians. Now, I don't care who you are, what type of degree you think you have. If you are reading this and have been reading it for an hour and you still scratching your head like, what is wrong with you? Here, let me read this part again. Thus, a possible fortuitous and accidental genetic mutation giving rise to albinoism made for the easier genetic engineering of this type. Hence the story of the albino Noah. There are no melanin granulines in the nuclear membrane of fair-skinned humans. The lack of melanin allowed their ultraviolet light-cutting engineering techniques to gain access to the chromosomes in the nucleus of the cell and alter them more easily than highly melanized humans. The fair-skinned human with little melanin protection from sunlight became their ideal human form for their predatory work. They left the other experimental human forms with higher melanin substantially alone and instituted their main work on what we now call Euro-Caucasians, and far more recently, fair-skinned northern Mongolians. Could the son of Adam, Cain, have been an albino, the first of male progeny line creating the Euro-Caucasian strain of humanity? Could this whitening be the mark of Cain mentioned in the Bible? It would also explain why God would instruct that no one harm Cain, who after all was a murderer. An eye for an eye type of reaction would have been far more typical of the God of Moses, not one where he would explicitly preserve and protect a murderer. If, however, Cain was genetically important for breeding purposes, it would explain why the preservation order was made. It would also make sense that the albino Noah was instructed to do the only genetic preservation exercise we have a record of in the religious text. Thus, the great aliens' primary horde, I believe, are all Euro-Caucasoid and northern Mongoloid, homozygotic genetic type forms on our planet, whom they and their cohorts have been genetically engineering and refining for tens of thousands of years from a primordial hominoid from Homo erectus, the African Eve, through various stages of gathering sophistication, i.e. Netherlands and Cro-Magnons. They did this originally in a laboratory we might call the Garden of Eden, hence the story in Genesis. For those who watch my Darius Corbin channel, you know I did a story on Dr. Yakub, the creator of the white race, and how Yakub took the babies from the divine mother, the black goddess, and if they were too dark, he would throw them in the water. And if the lighter they were, the lighter he would graft them until they would end up being albino, till eventually they were white. I want you to read what I just said a while ago. I want you to listen again. Thus, the great aliens' primary horde, I believe, are all Euro-Caucasoid and northern Mongolian homozygotic genetic type forms on our planet, whom they and their cohorts have been genetically engineering and refining for tens of thousands of years from a primal hominoid form, Homo erectus, aka the African Eve. So white people, I don't care how racist you are, you come from the African Eve. You come from the mother. For my Catholics, you go into the Vatican, they're not worshiping the Virgin Mary you think you may know. They have the Black Madonna, aka the Black Goddess. Well, we don't got too much time left. We're already hour 7 in. We're almost done, family. We're almost done. David Jacobs, who, as I mentioned earlier, has identified the Nordics as human alien hybrids, has recently reported changes in abduction accounts over the last 10 years that seem to suggest a culmination of the hybridization program in the last few years leading up to a far more active stage. I quote from his report, and I quote, "A picture we may not wish to gaze upon," written in 2007, and I quote, "All of these accounts, to put it bluntly, point to a figure All of these accounts, to put it bluntly, point to a future in which human-looking hybrids will be here amongst us. The evidence is now so strong I can no longer look at an alternative motivation for them. All sorts of people who for many years have been telling me primarily the standard abduction procedure now tell me new things, and new people with whom I have just began to work tell them to tell. Let me read that again. All these accounts, to put it bluntly, point to a future in which human-looking hybrids will be amongst us. The evidence is now so strong I can no longer look at the alternative motivations for them. All sorts of people for many years have been telling me primarily the standard abduction procedure, now tell me new things, and new people with whom I have just begun to work tell them to me too. Furthermore, people with whom I have not had a hypnosis session for many years come back and want to have a session so that they can fully remember the new and extraordinary events that have happened to them recently. Why is this happening? Is there something changing? Are we in a new phase now? In my research in the mid-1990s, I heard the aliens talking about what they call the change, quote unquote, when they would be here with us. Now I think that evidence indicates the change might be happening a lot sooner than I have thought. It was not very long ago when people would ask me if I thought hybrids were walking around in the normal human settings, that I would answer, of course not. To me, the evidence has never indicated that. Now what I hear is much more about interfacing with hybrids and teaching hybrids and getting hybrids ready and making sure everything is all right. So Nigel goes back to say, with greatest irony, the pale-skinned pinnacles of the greatest wealth, power, and status in the world today are the legatees of a great alien hybrid program. Let's read that again. So with greatest irony, listen to this. So, with greatest irony, the pale-skinned pinnacles of the greatest wealth, power, and status in the world today are the legatees of a great alien hybrid program. Thus, it is only natural that they form the vanguard of man's technological progress towards a world run by the same artificial intelligence and virtual reality that the Greys themselves personify. And as we gleefully look forward to the possibilities now becoming open to us of transforming our bodies through computer chip implants into bio machines capable of superhuman features, we little realize that we may well be providing a bio-robotic species with the potential to ensure the continuance of its program and thus its own survival through us. What price, humanity? What price warmth, compassion, imagination, and depth of feeling? What price reality when virtual reality is so much more inviting, or is it? What do you think? This is by no means a condemnation of the Euro-Caucasian. And to my white family, this is no condemnation to you. But we have spiritual beings that are waiting in the underworlds, inner worlds, beyond this world for us to get our shit right. And we can't get shit right until we stop focusing on these wars, until the Vatican really comes and let people publicly walk into their library and see these books that they had hid from us. Tell the truth, Pope. Tell them what the third secret of Lady Fatima is really about. Tell them what the third secret of Lady Fatima is really about. We have our family in Canada, prime ministers in Canada who has exposed the Galactic Federation. How come our people won't get together and really bring this Galactic Federation to a forefront? It's going to happen regardless in the age of Aquarius, but damn, why are the people still with a wool over their damn face? Still talking about believing in Jesus. And these motherfuckers are giving you a hologram to feed and believe in. This is by no means a condemnation of the Euro-Caucasian. It just seems that we are a marked species. This is Nigel talking. This is by no means a condemnation of the Euro-Caucasian. It just seems that we are a marked species unwittingly serving ourselves up on a great alien table of ill purpose. They have set us for their purpose, and we are happily dancing to their tunes, embracing their artificial intelligence, their virtual reality. Insidiously and seemingly inevitably, they are pulling our strings, and we just do not care. Perhaps soon we will be unable to care. And he ends it with, I hope I am wrong about all this. It is, after all, a speculation, but it is one that I have pondered over carefully with many years of painstaking research to back it up. I believe that is a surmise that fits all the facts. If I am wrong, it may serve a warning of what might just happen when a superior technological species meets an inferior one. In every single instant this has happened thus far on this planet, the more technologically advanced has exploited, subjugated, enslaved, and destroyed, the less. Let me read that again. Excuse me. If I am wrong, it may serve as a warning of what might just happen when a superior technological species meet an inferior one. In every single instant this has happened thus far on this planet, the more technological advance has exploited, subjugated, enslaved, and destroyed, the less. You only have to look at what the white man has done to the indigenous people throughout history. This is a universe of enforcement wrapped around an atomic state, one of diminishing returns where the overall momentum through the second law of thermodynamics is one that degrades and destroys with time. It all goes one way into increasing states of chaos and randomness with time. This is our essential base universe wide. Every parent of the Euro-Caucasian marks need to take a long, clear look into the eyes of their children, just in case I am right, and ask the question, what do we do if all this is true? Well, I hope that Dare's Core Presents Mystery School, I presented Racism Decoded, the Galactic Truth. You're going to have to replay this several times. Share it. Let it go viral. I'm calling upon the world governments to watch this video. Speak truth to the people. Our ancestors are here. The Christ is here. You knew we were coming. To my family, wake up. No more sleeping in bed. Keep your eyes on this whole Gaia thing as well. Because I'm one for disclosure as well. But when you're still, and I'm not saying you are Gaia, just a little warning. If you're still putting racial intents, even in disclosure, that's going to backfire you as well. So it's time. Family, class is in session. Till next time.